Familiar with I4CP, we are the Institute for Corporate Productivity. We're a human capital research firm. We discover the people practices that truly drive high performance. What we mean by high performance are those organizations that excel in four key areas: revenue growth, market share, profitability, and customer satisfaction. In our research, we're always looking for those best and next practices that high-performing organizations do more often than their low-performing counterparts. We are a member-based organization, so for those of you on the call from one of our member companies, special welcome to you. If you're not with a member company and would like to learn more, by all means, reach out to myself or really anyone at I4CP, and we'd be happy to have that conversation. You see here just a small smattering of logos from some of our members. We range from very large organizations like Amazon, Accenture, Visa, and others, as well as some that maybe you're a little less familiar with. They also span across really all industry verticals, every industry: healthcare, technology, banking and finance, government, nonprofits. Really everything is included in our membership population. So again, special welcome to those of you on the call from one of our member companies. One thing I wanted to note, for those of you not familiar, while we specialize in HR research, we also have an executive search practice that specializes in human resources leadership placement. Everything from chief human resource officers to leaders of DE&I, talent, L&D, talent acquisition, total rewards, your people analytics leaders. Obviously, over the years, I4CP has cultivated a great network of HR leaders that we know and have helped, in some cases, place into their current positions. So would love to help you with that. You don't need to be a member organization to participate in this, but if you're interested in learning more, again, reach out. You see the email address there, executivesearch@i4cp.com, and we can tell you more about our executive search practice. There's also more information on the web at i4cp.com/executive search, and Zeta will be putting that link in the chat. As I said at the top, this is our Next Practices weekly call. We meet every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. My name is Tom Stone. I'm a senior research analyst here at I4CP, and most weeks I have the honor of co-hosting this call. And this week, I'm joined by Lina Perez, a membership director here at I4CP. Good morning, Lina.
Good morning, Tom. It's so great to be here with all of you.
Good to have you with us, and you're going to be facilitating and leading the conversation with our special guest, which we'll get to in just a moment. But I wanted to note some of the upcoming calls we have in this series there on the right. We're going to have Di Holman, Chief People Officer at Virgin Pulse, next Thursday. And then you'll notice a little bit of a change. We'll have a call on the following Thursday on the 18th, with a special event with Kevin Oakes and Catherine Brecken to once again walk through some of our healthy culture fitness research that we debuted just a couple of months ago. But on the 17th, we're doing something a little bit new. We're going to have a Next Practices weekly call focused on folks living in the EMEA region, whether their organizations are headquartered there or not. You see, we're going to have three guests, one from Mustafa Al-Rafi, and then Christy Karandakar will be joined by Catherine Brecken, one of my colleagues here at I4CP on the research team. That one's going to be, I believe, at 8 a.m. Eastern. Zeta will put the information on that in the chat. So I note this for you all, might not be the best time for some of you in the United States, although the East Coast, I suppose, could participate. But you might want to share this with some of your global colleagues, whether you're a US-based company, a Europe or EMEA region-based company. The timing is such that it'll work out better for the folks in that region. So by all means, if they're interested in that topic and would like to join the call, we're spreading our wings a little bit globally here with these Next Practice weekly calls. So would love to have folks join. All right, with that, I'm going to turn things over to Lina to lead the conversation with our special guest today.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks again. And welcome, Linde. We're very excited to have you here. Let me start by thanking you for accepting our invitation. We're really excited to have you here. And I'm looking forward to our conversation today. And as we think about our network and our ability to combine data with stories inside organizations and the huge impact this has to bring this to life and hear from you and just grow as a community, I think it would be a great start point to learn a little bit about your HR journey, how you got to Spirit Airlines, and maybe dive a little bit in why, and especially the time of this, why it's important for you.
Yeah, so hello everybody. I'm super honored to be here, and Tom and Lena, thanks for inviting me. And this is a community and a partnership with I4CP that I've really loved for about 7 years. I've been kind of partnering and working with I4CP, so I'm happy to have brought them to Spirit. So a little bit about my journey. I have been in HR for about 25 years. I actually just calculated it because I always estimate lower, but it makes me feel older when I say 25 years. I really feel like I have loved every bit of my career. I've had an opportunity, I think, to work in just about every corner of HR. I've had amazing development opportunities. I have, worked globally and, just really learned all sorts of different businesses. And so I feel really blessed to have had, all the experiences I've had. So I guess quickly from, my path, I started after my master's degree working at Accenture. And from Accenture, about 6 years at Accenture, I left and went to United Health Group. And that was kind of my first, entry into healthcare, and was in healthcare really for the next 17 years. So after some time at United Health Group, I had a thought that I was going to leave and move on and become my first time HR generalist with Cigna, who had a division in Minnesota in their behavioral health organization. And after a while there and an amazing time at Cigna, I decided to return to United Health Group. And I think that was in 2010 that I returned, and I, just had what I would call fairy tale experiences. When I look back on the work that I've been able to do at such a significant company, working back and forth between the United Health Group, corporate group, and then mostly within Optum, I just was really blessed. So I left Optum here in about, I've just got to figure out 2021. And for the last 3 years with the company, I was the chief talent officer and had just an amazing time with that. Worked with amazing people in all of my years before coming here. And now I've been at Spirit for 15 months now.
Wow, that's an amazing journey. Thanks for sharing with us today. So we have heard Spirits being in the media a little bit with, this potential merger that we are really curious to learn about.
Yeah.
And we realize that there is not much that you can comment on, but as the process of the potential merger with JetBlue plays out, is there anything different that you are focusing on to support Spirit Airlines employee as a CHRO during this time?
Yeah, for sure. So from a little bit of background, when I started in January of 2022 and through my interview process, I was not aware of Spirit's intent to engage in an acquisition. So the Saturday before I started, I found out that we had an intent to merge with Frontier, and that was a very different model than what we're embarking on right now with JetBlue. And then that kind of came to an end, and we transitioned to an agreement with JetBlue. And, it's been super interesting. First of all, I come from United Health Group, which obviously has grown leaps and bounds through acquisitions. So I've had the experience of seeing the process of, supporting a workforce through acquisitions for many years and in many different ways. And, I was really excited to be able to bring that expertise to Spirit and, my knowledge of what, we were going to be going through. And, it sounds simple, but the biggest focus is just keeping our team members really focused on running a great operation through many ups and downs from a business perspective, and many ups and downs personally as they think about what the future means to them. So I'll talk about a little bit, Spirit has just a fantastic culture, which I can tell you a little bit about here in a bit. But so there's been a variety of reactions. People have been with Spirit for a long time. We consider ourselves a family. And so there's a mourning process here going on. Everybody loves our black and yellow planes. It's an obsession. And, we're just a very personable company. And so a lot of people are worried about losing what's really special to us. So there's been an incredible amount of messaging, staying really close to everybody. And, obviously we have financial incentives through retention programs in place for our support center teams, which is our kind of anybody who's not a crew member. And, we've done a really good job. I can share that we have maintained our turnover in our corporate groups from the time we announced Frontier till today. It's been held steady.
Thank you. And I'm glad you mentioned a little bit about your culture while you were sharing these great insights. So can you just describe a little bit more in depth about Spirit's airline culture and what are the key values, behaviors, and practices that you employ in your organization?
Yeah, so I mean, again, I'll just say it, Spirit, it's a family. We reference ourselves as the Spirit family. This is a company that's grown really fast, and it wasn't that long ago where it was a much smaller company. And I think that family, definition really describes what we see inside. And, I'll also say that when I was first joining Spirit, I'm like, what's this family thing? I'm like, what are they? Is this just like something they say? And you feel it the instant you interact with our team members and our leaders pretty significantly. And I think it just comes through in just a tremendous amount of trust and respect. And, we have very down-to-earth leaders who care about our team members, who are really, really, really obsessive about great performance and making sure that we can grow. And so it's all done in what I would just say is a very collaborative way. And, we have high accountability. One of the things I love about Spirit is we make decisions fast, we get things done fast. And so, a lot of things that I have done here since I've been here, in the past, maybe it take a couple of years, here it's been a matter of months sometimes when from idea to, launch, and everybody's very open and accepting and trusting of the people who, had the idea and delivered the idea.
Thank you. Yes, I completely agree when you say that sometimes it's so difficult to come to an organization that talks themselves as family, because that's the same experience I had when I joined I4CP. Everybody said we are like a family, but I had not had the experience to share that.
Yeah.
And when I joined I4CP, now I understand that value that comes when organizations feel that way.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of still conversations after the pandemic about hybrid work and flexible work. So what's Spirit's approach to hybrid and flexibility work policies for corporate employees? And yeah.
I think we've had a really fun story, and it's been a journey, just like everybody else. And I had a very specific mindset that I wanted to help bring to Spirit when I joined. And so a little bit of a setting up. When I started, we were kind of just in the beginning of the Delta variant. So before I was here, Spirit had plans to call everybody back into the office, and then Delta hit and they kind of sent everybody back home again. So, in that time that, we were kind of working remote again, we were trying to plan for the future, and I wanted to, take leadership and help an organization look at it a little differently. And in particular, I think my learnings came from, reading a lot. You can't open a single article, business paper, nothing without, reading about the various attempts to call people back in and, the various failures that have happened. And interesting enough, a lot of times the attempt and what the plan is gets advertised, but the failure doesn't, right? And what we found and what we've heard is, the employees will speak for themselves. They'll do what they want to do because the world is just fundamentally different. And that is, potentially an overused phrase, but I believe that the DNA of humans are different. So I think businesses who try to return to the past or return to pre, pandemic, it's just going to be a failed attempt. So, we had, a CEO who was very anxious to get everybody back into the office. And that is because of this kind of family concept. In our support center, in South Florida here, a lot of people live locally. They've done most of their hiring in the past, very, very local. And so when everybody is in the office has got a ton of energy, and everybody is together, and that was how it was pre-pandemic. Lots of events all the time, and a lot of just people working very collaboratively. We are space challenged, so that has been one of the things that's happened through the pandemic. The facility we're in right now, we're just playing out of space. So even if we wanted to call everybody back in, it didn't work because we don't have a place for everybody to sit. So probably just like every other company, we went through a process of, trying to identify the people who really needed to be in, and what we wanted from that. And then, who was, kind of potentially not going to come in, full time again. And we are building a new corporate headquarters. So that's in the future, and will, kind of probably happen from a move-in perspective at the same time we're learning about the acquisition with JetBlue. What I wanted to influence on is meeting the needs of our executive team to return to that kind of high energy, everyone together, that family feeling, acknowledging our space issues, and balancing really just the change in human behaviors and what they prioritized, how they thought about work. So we wanted just to design something that, fit the future. And I didn't want to do anything that I anticipated would fail, but knew we weren't always going to be perfect. So I think, Tom, we can bring up my slide and I'll kind of transition into, so we launched a program called All is Smart Working. So if you're familiar with Spirit, you know that All is Smart is a trademark of ours, and this is our concept for what we offer to our guests. Basically, we want our guests to have more choices. We don't want you to have to pay for things you don't need. If you don't bring a bag on, a lot of other airlines, that bag fee is, baked into your ticket price. So we let you choose what you want. We let you choose to buy your seat. We let you choose to your boarding priority. And, we wanted to, use that concept, because that's what we're talking about here. It's the, putting the choice of our team members and giving them options for what works best for them. We have this whole concept of making the most of the kind of high impact moments, or the moments that matter. So what we did is one of the objectives, of course, and why everybody wants, or many leaders want team members in the office, is because we believe working together drives innovation, creates, maintains your culture. And, I've seen a lot of companies say, well, this group will come in, Monday and Tuesday, and that group will come in on, Wednesday and Thursday. Well, if that happens, then those groups can't work together, right? And so what we launched was core collaboration days, where everybody's in on, Tuesday and Wednesday. And for those people who don't have a designated desk, we have what we call All a Smart Working Space, where they can kind of just grab a desk that's free. And so that kind of helps us deal with our space issue, where people can, kind of come in and sit and work anywhere that they want, share desk space, that type of thing. But most importantly, then we offer that flexibility and working for where you need to, based on the day's moments. So one of my team members, and he might be on here, David Klein, who's also very active with I4CP, said it really, really well. Where in the past we have maybe been in the frame of mind to say, I'm going to work remote today. What are the special circumstances of why I might go into the office? And, I think what we ask our team members to say today, and be in the thoughts of, my place is in the office, but what are the circumstances of which I need to work at home? So maybe a little bit of the same thing, but it helps people understand that they have the freedom to be flexible. they can still do the same things that they need to do, and they are participating in if they're full-time work from home, even if they're in an office a couple of times a day. So, I would tell you from a high, results aspect. We have a very full office on Tuesday and Wednesday, so we're very, it's a very hopping place. There's nowhere to park. The parking lot is very full. I think so you feel it on that day, and I think everyone is really enjoying, their choice to be where they need to be. And so, we're proud of it. It's not perfect. And we are, kind of monitoring and, continuing to message, and we'll keep our eye on it. But, what I love about it is it aligns very strongly with who we are. It's 100%, what we are as Spirit. And, we have a lot of people who have different reactions across the board. And I think what we have found is people have a reaction at the start. And then, once they kind of step into it, they find, hey, this is working. This works for me. And, we're continuing to learn, and it'll continue to be a journey, especially as we look to move into our new facility where we have a little bit more space, and, kind of what that will look like.
So Linde, this is Tom. I know we've got some drill down questions that Lena will walk us through. But before we do that, I wanted to just note for everyone, please use the chat if you'd like to ask any questions as we go along. We're going to hear more about different aspects of the a la smart working approach. I already noted in the chat, I really love the branding, obviously. Anytime you can take your external customer facing branding and apply it to something internal regarding people policy, your employees, your associates, I think that's always a good move. So kudos on that. I had two quick questions as follow-ups. You just reiterated looking forward to the new headquarters. I assume, we've heard this from a lot of companies, that new headquarters is being built with this kind of policy in mind. So it'll have maybe more collaboration spaces, different open spaces, and not just be a bunch of rows of offices and cubicles.
Yeah, it's a balance of both. But for sure, I mean, to give you an idea of where our, kind of support center, we call our, instead of calling it our corporate team, we call it our Spirit Support Center. It's, a very long, wide, one level building. You come into the office and you walk right by, the executive suite. So, we get a chance to see everybody at every day and say hi to everybody. So there's a lot of chance of kind of crossing with each other. So what's going to be really interesting about the new building is we're moving to a multi-floor building. And so the first time in Spirit history, we'll have a little bit more division between kind of where everybody is, maybe less chances of seeing everybody. So we're working on a change management plan to make sure that people, think about, how do you move about the office to make sure that you still connect with the people who you need to connect with. And, we're going to have a cafe and all of that. So another thing that's really excited, not to leave our amazing crew out of it, is in addition to our corporate building, we are building a beautiful, beautiful state-of-the-art training center for pilots and flight attendants, with a lot of simulators in there for pilots. And in addition to that, we are building a whole resident building. So when our pilots and our flight attendants come in, right now they stay at different hotels, that we can get them in. And right now they'll be, just walking distance, from where they're staying during training to the training center. So
wow, that's impressive, especially in these times and in this current economy. And a lot over the past several decades, I come from a background in L&D, so I've seen many companies invest in corporate universities and complexes that are training centers that they own. But there's a cost involved. So there's obviously benefits, pros and cons. So I give you again props for investing in that. I think that will pay dividends. I've always liked that. There's some big companies that are moving away from that. GE, of course, has been, in slow decline over the years in some respects. Still a force to be reckoned with, but I think that they might be no longer using their famous training facility, or at least looking to downsize it in some way in the future. So there's a mix of corporations and their approach there, but I love both the training facility and the residence facility for your crew members. I think those are both going to going to be great investments.
Yeah.
The other quick question I had is you mentioned doing a lot of reading, and we've all been doing a lot of reading on hybrid and flexible work over the years. In coming up with the a la smart working approach, what also did you do on the sort of listening to employees side? Was there some surveying? Was there focus groups of people in different roles? How did you gather input from employees?
Yeah, well, I think some of it came from just a lot of talking about it and, kind of a false start before Delta variant came and then, more talking about it. So, it's just close knit. So we have an officer group, which is our VP and up, that's, only 26 people. So, we meet every week and we constantly have, I am the heartbeat of the company. So we know how our team members feel and we took that all into consideration. We know through surveys, like our pulse surveys, what's important. I have a hot off the press, data point to share. We just finished our last pulse survey, which is a new thing for us. We've just moved from this big annual survey to every quarter. Which is important, obviously, with the acquisition out in front of us to make sure that we are hearing from people quickly. But the top 3 reasons for staying with Spirit amongst all levels is a flexible work-life balance. So, what we're offering right now, has definitely resonated and is having an impact on team members' decision to stay with our company.
Great, thank you. Tom, do you have any other questions or?
No, I'm good. Let's dig a little deeper on this whole program.
Thank you. So Linde, as we think about managers and employee support, what support such as content, communications, etc., has been provided to both corporate managers and employees around hybrid work and flexible work?
Yeah, so I think when we launched All Smart Working, we did a very nice job communicating. We have a exceptional communications team here. They just word things and engage people through, really great communication. So that was a big part of it, a good communication strategy, making sure that our executive team was really on board. And that took many, many, many conversations to kind of understand the ins and outs and the different ways leaders think, right? You have some leaders who will take a program like this and be very, very black and white and, hear the words differently. And then you have some that will, kind of take their own liberties with, what exactly it means. And that's okay in some sense. Every leader doesn't need to be the same, but we need them to lead on behalf of Spirit and what we're trying to do here as a company, and sometimes kind of put their own personal thoughts about, what's important. Because we are in an uncertain time with our team members. And, the last thing we want to do is force a situation on our team members that scares them or makes them uncomfortable or would make them want to leave us, ahead of an acquisition. So they have enough to worry about other than, being kind of scared off with this. So, great communication, some playbooks a little bit just on the, here's the things you can say. And when your team member has some concerns or when this situation comes up. So we offered really great support. And, one of the things I think just from a verbal perspective that I've advised with my colleagues on the executive team are, there would be these comments like, well, if people aren't here and I walk down the hall, then I can't, assign a project to them. Or, I used to assign a project. I'd see somebody at the break room and I would say, hey, I need this project done. Will you do it? And so, you have to, these things in the future here can't be done by having the same behaviors we had in the pre-pandemic. And so I've been, kind of talking to them about, well, call somebody on their phone, pick up the phone and call them, chat with them, set up a time with them. You have to replace those kind of happenstance crossings in the hallways, with different ways of working. And, you know, on top of that, also told them, well, that's not really the appropriate way of assigning, you know, special projects. So we have, you know, engaged in a much richer talent assessment process. And it's gone really, really well. And we're helping leaders see, you know, who are the best people on their teams to assign projects to, not just people who they were, you know, walking by in the hallway. So I think all of those things are coming together. Nothing stands on its own. It's got to all kind of work, you know, as one.
Yeah, very, very interesting approach. So if we think about the impact on recruitment and attracting top talent, given your approach to flexibility work, what impact have you seen on attracting top talent?
Yeah, so first of all, you know, when we were planning the communication of the first plan to merger with Frontier, I have to say I was so afraid of what our ability was going to be to hire anybody, you know, about, you know, who wants to come work for an organization where, you know, might potentially become something different, and, you know, there's a lot of uncertainty. And we saw a fantastic response through the Frontier thing, and now with the JetBlue team in the market of people being really excited about the opportunity. So luckily, I would say, first of all, that has helped our hiring. And, you know, having remote workers and being remote and having that flexibility and talking about all of SMART has helped as well. Before I joined, I would say the primary location to hire team members again was in South Florida. I mentioned that before. And, you know, we have taken a focus on, we're going to hire the best talent, and they may not live in South Florida. And that obviously complicates core collaboration days and all those kind of things. But, you know, I think we've been able to find exceptional talent, and you know, we're working to align and shift just as a company about having more people are remote. And also, I mean, we're a travel company, you know, we have all these airports and people travel, and, you know, our airport people and our flight attendant leaders and our flight operation leaders, they're out in the airports, they're around. So it's not like everybody is on this kind of captive Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 anyways. And so it kind of fits in with that. There's always going to be somebody who's, you know, remote in a meeting or an event or something like that.
Right. What about your union employees and those that are non-corporate employees, those that don't have the corporate jobs, where work location flexibility really isn't an option?
Yeah, so I think every organization, first of all, that I've worked in has this dilemma, right? Where you have ones that, you know, the corporate group where it's a high discussion, and you have other people who just don't have the option because they're running the business. They are the business out in the field. And I guess I'll talk in particular with pilots. And, you know, another thing that you read about just about in every business article is the demand and for pilots and the shortage of them. And, you know, what we do is really, we know that we have to distinguish ourselves. We know we have something special from a culture perspective. But there's a thing in the work rules of the contracts with the unions that, you know, sets up, you know, what kind of work-life balance there is based on how pilots are scheduled to fly and how that works. And we have one of the best contract, you know, kind of statements that and arrangements that offer a really great work-life balance. So we use that. We advertise. It's been a really key part of how we have developed new marketing campaigns for our pilots and our flight attendants, so that we're telling the story that distinguishes who we are at Spirit and what's special about, you know, coming to work here, you know. And you know, the whole family concept comes in there, the great culture comes in there. I call pilot candidates the Friday before they start training, every Friday. And, you know, it's so fun to talk to them and find out why they're coming to Spirit. And I know for certain that these messages have resonated with them. And they say often, we hear you have a great culture. Everyone's fun to fly with. We love your work-life rules and your contract. And, you know, we're not the highest paying airline, most certainly. As everybody knows, we have an old reputation that's hard to die. If you haven't flown Spirit in a while, you should come fly us, because we're different than we used to be. And our messages and our efforts are working really, really well. And I'm really proud of my talent acquisition team for, getting out there and helping them see, why they should come work for us.
Linde, let me jump in here. Did I hear that right? You said that you call the pilot candidates, you, the Chief Human Resource Officer, or did you mean you or someone on your team call them?
No, myself, our CEO and our COO, we split up the 20-some candidates that are starting, and we call them on the Friday before the start training.
That I want to call that out. That is a white glove treatment. That is really putting an emphasis on where you've noted a shortage, where there's a shortage in the, I put in the chat, we certainly read a lot about pilot shortages along the same lines of, say, nursing shortages, welder shortages. There's certain roles in different types of industries that seem to get a lot of attention in the press. In fact, I saw one recently. There was a headline about a nurse apocalypse. I don't know if we're going to be facing a pilot apocalypse that'll really grind travel to a halt, but maybe it feels like that sometimes. So kudos to you and your CEO and COO for taking that approach to really, at least from a hoping that they stay in the training and join Spirit perspective and not one of your competitors. That's a great practice.
Yeah, well, since we've started making the calls, we have seen a nice increase in our show up rate and our throughput in staying with training. So, we're still having more turnover than we want, but it's that's the kind of the factor of what's happening right now.
Thank you, Linde. Yeah, definitely that personal approach, I think, is going to make a huge impact when coming to retaining those pilots. And I'm glad that you mentioned a little bit about your work-life balance approach within Spirit. So how is holistic well-being connected to your hybrid flexible work approach?
Yeah, I mean, well, well-being is important, as everybody on this call knows. If I'm honest with it, we've had maybe a little under focus on, the official well-being programs here. We are, heavily focused on it, and, are continuing to add in there. But, I think the focus on well-being just happens a little bit organically here, just because of the high level of care that, happens amongst coworkers and between leaders and their team members. So, that's the informal, and sometimes that's the part you don't have, and you have all these wonderful programs and they don't work because you don't have the stuff that really, works every day. And so, we're on a journey of a lot of things that, maybe haven't been fully in place in the past, but, coming out of the pandemic and with this acquisition and the uncertainty ahead of us, it most certainly, is important to focus on the burnout. Our Spirit team, another thing I'll just share, it's going back to the culture. These are the hardest working group of people I have ever met in my life. And the commitment, and, it goes back to just how much they love their yellow and black and our beautiful planes in the sky. It's just a diehard love and commitment, and there's an endless wanting to do great work and contribute to the organization. I'll speak specifically for my HR team, and I know many of them are on. I'm just so blessed with such a high concentration of incredibly talented people, and that's the secret. That's what every company should want. It's just a really high dense, organization of talent and committed people.
Let me jump in again, Lina, if I can, on this topic of well-being. When we did our study on well-being several years ago, we broke it out, holistic well-being, into 6 different component areas. Most organizations were strong in supporting physical well-being through their through various programs that they have, gym memberships, and obviously their healthcare benefits. For the past several years, mental and emotional well-being has been a focus of just about everyone. You mentioned burnout, and so I'm sure it continues to be. One that we've done some recent study on, and that we're seeing an uptick, in part because of the macro economy, is financial well-being. Not all organizations have jumped on that quite yet, but I was curious, we have a new article out, maybe Zeta can find that. It was written just a few days ago, published at least a few days ago by my colleague Molly Lombardi about what some organizations are doing to support financial well-being. Would love to hear from you, Linde, on that front. Is that a focus area now, or will it be later this year, perhaps?
Yeah, on a couple of different levels. Number one, for our officer team, we've had a lot of changes in our financial programs, in particular with the CARES Act from the pandemic and the restrictions that put on, executive compensation, and, new programs we introduced for retention with JetBlue. So we do pretty white glove financial education to help everybody understand what their situation is. So my head of total rewards, which is another exceptional leader on my team, kind of does really great one-on-ones and education. Sometimes he'll join a call with their financial advisor and, help to make sure that it's translating well. And then for whole team members, in particular, and I think many, again, on the call will acknowledge this, when someone gets promoted and becomes equity eligible, they don't even know what that means or what they should do. I know I didn't when I'm like, oh, I have this, I don't know what's going to happen with it, right? And so we're trying to look at these important moments that a promotion happens and make sure that people have education and understanding of, how their financial situation changes and what it means.
Right, thank you for the additional information, Linde. So, D&I, it's always a topic mind for all of us and for our world. So what connections have you seen between your approaches to D&I and hybrid flexible work?
It's fully in it. I mean, we have a diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. We call it DEEB. And it's, it is not a bolt-on, it's not a separate program. It doesn't run independently whatsoever. So our, every program we launch, every process we have, just about anything we do has a heavy weave of, kind of what diversity means and how we make sure that we're looking at it through the lens of our DEEB work. So, that's, I'm probably most proud. I haven't read or heard about it to the level that I see happening here at Spirit around how everything is so heavily integrated and really just helping every project, every program level up because of that integration.
Thank you. So I think a lot of those that are listening to our conversation today might be curious and maybe potentially looking for a job right now and such a great organization. So when hiring HR professionals to join your team, what are the qualities that you especially seek out for?
Yeah, so first of all, and this is the given, maybe the cliche now, right? High business acumen. And when I say that, I mean it a little bit different. Of course, I want them to know the business, how the company makes money, but I want them to be in it for the business. So a lot of times I've spent many, many years interviewing a lot of incoming HR professionals. And, we all know everybody lands in HR a little bit of a different way, sometimes just a traditional way out of school, but sometimes they get on an assignment and then that leads into a career. And, I often hear, well, I like people and, super important, right? You have to like people. But you have to be more obsessed with the business and how to use every feature of the team member to drive that business forward. And that's got to be the reason why you come every day. So you have to be great with people, think about people, know people, but you have to want to turn that into, driving the business. So that's the first thing. I'll also say that, I have a mission to break the mold. And, I think there's a lot of things that we've done in history in HR that just get repeated over and over and over again. They're relatively administrative. We do them and they don't do anything with it. And so I, as a leader, I invite my entire team to really, when we're embarking on doing something that's maybe a core process of HR, to come to me and tell me, here's how I want to do it differently. And I think this would, make a different impact. And we're doing that. I think we're trying to do talent acquisition in a different way. We're truly activating and working on the results from, assessing your talent in a different way. So, again, it has to lead back to the business, but, I want to make sure every member of my team, and, I guess that comes in when you're assessing who you hire, that comes with a high curiosity, the ability to think really broad and make connections between things that don't seem to relate, but, figure out how they relate and use them to drive results.
Thank you. So now maybe just adding a little bit to this question.
Yeah.
Curious to hear a little bit more about when it comes within Spirit, how is your talent mobility approach within the organization?
Yeah, so, I think that we're at the beginning of the journey of making sure we know our talent really well so that we can assess, where our opportunities are for mobility. We have a lot of new programs and impacts introduced into the organization. Last year was a hefty year. We brought a whole kind of fresh approach and perspective. And so I think that, the goal is, and I believe the biggest impact we can make is, creating great careers. And people have their own ownership of that. But, the world works differently. Again, I'm going to say that again, and we say that a million times a day. People don't stay in jobs multi-years anymore. People progress and have the concept of moving through jobs way faster than we did. So the traditional ways in which we thought about, how long do you need to be in a role before you're promoted, and, what capabilities can you have if you change functions and all those things, we have to look beyond those and, just move at a more flexible, agile pace to stay up with people's needs. Because if we don't do that internally, they will leave because they can get that at an external company, or at least achieve that change. So we're on the beginning of that, but most certainly want to make sure that we continue to focus on that. The JetBlue integration, as long as it is approved and we move forward with that, will do that significantly. So we just had our leadership conference this week. We had 480, almost 500 leaders in South Florida here for our leadership conference. And one of the biggest fears we hear about the acquisition is what's going to happen to my role, who's in my box over there. And so I actually had the opportunity to be on stage and talk to all of these leaders in the room and help them look at it more dynamically. So it could be what your box is over there, and you could be the better of the two people and get assessed and end up in the job. But there are so many other ways that this could land, right? You could have a larger scope than what you have today. You could, they might have a role that we don't have that you might take because it's a good alignment with what you do. Or you might do something just completely different, move to a different function. Nothing has to be forever, but land there first, learn something, get used to the new company, and then, find your way through that mobility. So this is what people want. And, we naturally have some interesting opportunities ahead of us with the JetBlue transaction, and, but we're still thinking about it day to day here as well.
Thank you. So I know it's a little bit hard to think about the future with this potential merger. So, noting that this is pending, what is otherwise next in HR at Spirit through 2023 into 2024?
Yeah, so first, for context, and this is anything that you can read in the public, a couple of months ago, the DOJ did sue to block the merger. So rather than offering a decision, they have taken the route to sue and, claim that we're eliminating an ultra low cost carrier from the market, which primarily is us and Frontier. And so we will go to trial for them with them, at the end of the year, and we expect to have a decision. So, there's two ways that we're working right now. We're working with a thought of how much runway we have, no pun intended, but we have, how much runway we have here to, continue our day-to-day work. We're thinking about, there's a scenario where we could still end up, a standalone company, and we want to make sure that we haven't lost time just sitting still. So I would say for the most part, we're moving forward at the pace that we would want to do. I'm a bit competitive, so I'm excited to put great programs here in place in Spirit and have JetBlue, be like, oh, that's cool, we're gonna do that, in the future. So all of those dynamics are going on, and of course we have integration work and the things that we can do now before the decision happening. So it's very dynamic, and it's just making sure we're making the right decisions.
So we have a few minutes left. I wanted to circle back to one of the things you mentioned a few questions ago. You said one of your areas of focus is looking to do TA in some different ways, talent acquisition in some different ways. One is obviously a broader pool that the a la smart working, flexible work, gives you access to. Was there anything else you were thinking of there? Other areas that you're looking to change how you recruit?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that before, in the past, we've had kind of a post and pray approach for talent acquisition. And, we have transitioned to make sure our TA team has a very close consultative relationship with each business function, that we have experts, hiring for the jobs that are sometimes very hard to hire. And, we're working together with the business rather than kind of being on the side and just, spinning the rec machine. This is one of the things that I was passionate about when I was the chief talent officer at Optum too. And, I just think TA has to be, almost like the TA business partner, and, not just focus on time to fill. I actually don't like the time to fill metric, because it should take as long as it takes to get the best candidate. And, that, and with the business in mind, of course, and not making sure we're creating risk by having it open too long. But, I think it's just looking at things in a different way. And then we have the part of the team, Tom, as you mentioned, it's super high volume. We hire 300 flight attendants a month. So wow. It's, crazy. So we have, some teams that are dedicated to flight attendants, some teams that are dedicated to pilots, that are just on the road at events and making sure we're meeting the numbers for training classes and keeping that process rolling.
Patricia in the chat asked a follow-up here on this in the TA realm. What recruiting tools do you use most often besides, say, LinkedIn, if that's one you use predominantly?
I mean, all of them. I mean, we have a lot of partnerships. I think that those work very well for us, especially for some specialty roles. We look to build those pipelines through different schools or different associations. We will dig in and look in corners that we, haven't looked in, and that's part of the thinking outside the box. So, I think an organization that says, oh, well, we use this hiring system and, we scrub for talent off of LinkedIn. It's a very one-channeled way. So it's very, multi-channeled, and, we just try to make sure we're, opening our eyes to where else we need to look.
Another question we sometimes ask our guests when time allows is just on the HR technology front. This is something that's resurfaced lately. People wondering how AI is going to get integrated into all sorts of different HR tech. TA has been sort of leading the way in that, but learning and development uses AI in various capacities as well. But even beyond the AI connection, I'm just wondering, again, with the merger, things could happen where you got to normalize and figure out what technology that the new merged company might use. But anything going on HR technology wise at Spirit per se right now?
Yeah, I think, maybe not fully blown to, AI, but, definitely automation. What's so interesting about HR at Spirit is we range from the one end where it feels like we're still doing things from the 80s with papers. I have conference rooms full of boxes of papers. And, we've had to, kind of scrub through those pretty hard. And then we have some things where we're just trying to do the process better, make less mistakes. we're highly regulated, right? The FAA doesn't like us to make mistakes. They don't want us to not have the documents we need to have in hand. And so, and we're also moving to, a records management thing, which might, again, sound like something that somebody else did 20 years ago. So I acknowledge that, everybody, but, we're making progress in a lot of different corners, and, AI will figure out as we grow some of our functions, how it comes in for like our HR care center and that type of thing.
Well, very good. Thank you. Thank you for that. We're nearing the end of our hour here. I don't know if there's anything in closing, Linde, that you'd want to share, but you're getting a lot of kudos in the chat from folks for everything you've shared so far.
Yeah, I'll just share. I mean, I love being part of the HR community. I think that as we come together and, just really think, innovatively about who we are as a function, step away from the playbook of the past, and redefine ourselves. And that's not talking about, oh, what do we call ourselves? Should I be the chief people officer or the chief HR officer? Those are the surface things. It's really just about how you engage and act with the business, and it's a journey, and every business, every leader is different. But be bold and make sure that you feel like you're positioned in the right way. And we won't do that unless we do it as a community and everybody starts interacting with us in a very consistent manner.
Well, Linde, thank you so much for your participation today. We definitely got great insights from this conversation, and I'm sure a lot of the participants did as well. And it's an honor to be here with you and supporting your organization, and looking forward to continue working with you. Tom?
Thank you so much. Thank you for the great relationship I get from I4CP. I'm just really love working with you and what we learned from you.
Yeah, thanks again, Linde. And thanks everyone for joining us on the call today. Last thing I'll plug is we recently had our Next Practices Now conference in Scottsdale, Arizona in late March, and we're already lined up to do so again late March 2024. We've already got folks that are signing up. Great HR leadership conference every year at that same time. So if you're interested in learning more, just go out to the I4CP website, click on events, and you'll be able to find a lot more information on the conference from this past year and going into next year. So thanks everyone. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you again next week.